welcome to Age-Friendly Thunder Bay here on Shaw Spotlight. And I'm Rebecca Johnson, your host for the program. And today and tonight, whenever you happen to be watching our program, Sharon Corston is our guest, and we're going to be talking about income taxes, something that is near and dear to many people. And Sharon, I have to read your title. It is a Community Volunteer Income Tax Program e-file coordinator from the Lakehead Social Planning Council.
That's correct.
I'm not going to worry about that because I'll never repeat it again
Exactly.
in the program. But you coordinate all the income tax programs at the Lakehead Social Planning Council. That's
Yes.
all. How did the Lakehead Social Planning Council get into income tax? And tell me a little bit about that.
Well, basically, because they looked after a lot of social different things around town. One of them was the income tax that had come up, so they started hosting, I believe, over 20 years ago. An income tax, and it probably wasn't as big as it is now, and it probably didn't go as long as it did, but we're going every month now, every year. What should I say is 12 months a year, 5 days a week. So
you do income tax.
We do income tax.
Now, when we're talking, this is the main time, that's why we're having this program here in February, and the fact that income tax is generally done in the month of, or the end of the month.
End of the month,
yeah.
End of the month.
So you would still do it throughout the year, but how many, like say in the month, February, March, how many income tax forms would you fill out?
Well, for January, because that's our slow month.
Sure. That's a
December,
slow month.
That's a slow month. December and January get to be slowing months. We still did almost 200 taxes those 2 months.
Okay.
People are doing 10 years back.
10 years back.
Because we can go 10 years, and a lot of that is because they need to get into social housing, or they need to apply for their CPP and old age security, so they have to have their taxes done.
All right. So how many would, I think it's thousands that you do though over a period.
We do.
Like lots.
We were up to 8,000 a year, and then with COVID, we ended up dropping down a bit because people didn't know where to get their taxes done. They thought everything was shut down, so they didn't come. But we're back up. We're almost 6,000 again 2 years later, so people are coming back to us. Yeah.
So 6,000 that you do, and this would be for all ages, not just for older adults,
That's
but
right.
a lot would be older adults that you're doing this for.
We're doing it for everybody. First Nations, new immigrants, seniors, low-income people, and children, because there's a lot of kids that are like 16 to 18 that are earning and maybe not living at home. So they have to have their taxes done.
I pick up on the fact for new Canadians, it's really important that they do income tax as well.
They do. They have to, because this way they get all their benefits.
Correct.
They'll get their GST and their Ontario Trillium benefit. And now we have the new benefit called the Climate Action Incentive Payment. And if they have children, then they'll get the child care benefits. Now, Canada Child Benefit, I should say.
And we're going to get into some of those benefits a little bit later in the program. But one of the things I think is really important is the fact that not only you do the taxes, but it's a confidential. It's not that you can bring them in. If I decided to have them done at Lakehead Social Planning Council, I bring in all my information.
Actually, we're doing things virtually now.
Okay, so I don't have to go in.
No.
All right.
You give us we have some questions we have to ask you. We have a script that we have to ask to get permissions to speak to you on the phone, to download your documents, to get your, to use your CRA account to get your documents, and if we can e-file them on your behalf, because we need all these permissions in order to do their taxes. And then we get their basic information. Some of them we've done before, so we already have some core information from them. And we just carry on from there.
All right. Now, what if I don't have a computer? Then what happens?
Doesn't matter. You don't need a computer.
All right.
Basically, you're talking to me on the phone about your data.
So I just phone the Lakehead Social Planning Council, and then you can do it for me at that point. I don't have to sign anything?
No, because you're virtually signing it by agreeing to speak to me about your taxes on the phone.
So it's really quite easy then.
It is.
So if I always look at it this way. If I'm an isolated older adult sitting at home and I choose not to go out for whatever reason, I would hope that older adults would go out, but that's another point, is the fact that, all right, I'm isolated and I can't get out for whatever reason, I can just phone you and you will do all of it for me.
We'll do it all.
Oh, I didn't know that. That is a good thing to know.
It is. In fact, that's a lot of the phone calls I've been taking for the last week. Can we still do it virtually this year? Or do I have to come there? They prefer to do it virtually. They don't want to come. and
No.
sit in a line and
No,
wait to get
and
their
I,
taxes
I
done.
respect that for
Yeah.
people. The other thing is, what is the deadline? What is the absolute deadline to get your income tax done?
April 30th.
Okay,
Every year, April 30th.
that is a must.
That's a must. If you want your benefits in July,
Mm-hmm.
starting with your benefits, then you have to have them done by April 30th.
Now, we had talked before the program, the fact that April the 30th, the government sometimes is leeway and provides a little bit of a extra few days, but you're indicating to me that this year it's not going to be allowed.
They did it last year. They extended it to May 1st
Right.
because it was a weekend and there was a few things happening. But there, because people have forgotten, it seems, that
Yeah.
April 30th was the deadline. So they're trying to get everybody back in line, April 30th being the deadline.
That's it. So
Mm-hmm.
anybody that's watching needs to know April the 30th,
30th.
you better get your income tax done by. Now, with the Lakehead Social Planning Council, it is, of course, an organization in our community. Are you going to be charging me for this?
No, we do
No.
not charge. It's a
Okay.
free. It's a free clinic it's through the Community Volunteer Income Tax Program through CRA.
Okay.
Revenue Canada actually sponsors this, and we're a host
Right.
when we have this clinic.
All right, that's important to know.
It is.
Now, some people might want to go, excuse me, to a qualified auditor, accounting firm. They can do that if they want. And there are other places in the community that you can get income tax done. But we're using your information from Lakehead Social Planning Council because it basically is free, and that people can come and do it either on the phone or whatever. So that's why we're talking to you, Sharon. It's very important to know
It
that.
is. Now, there is some dollar amounts that we have to watch.
Right.
For a single person, it's $35,000. That's the limit that we can
Okay.
take.
Yeah.
For a couple, it's $45,000. If they have children, it's an additional $2,750 each.
All right.
So it can go up a bit
All right.
depending on how many children you have. But basically, for the most part, it's $35,000 for a single person.
Right, and you can. This could be anybody that's there that needs to have some assistance getting their income tax done. So we're gonna finish off our segment right now, Sharon. Sharon Corston, my guest from the Lakehead Social Planning Council, talking about income tax. And stay tuned for when we return to talk a little bit further about some of the benefits that you can get and some of the grants, et cetera, that are available to you as an individual, and make sure that you get your income tax done, Sharon, because that's what's really important. Otherwise, you're not going to get all of these benefits and credits that the government provides for you. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Well, welcome back to Age Friendly here on Shaw Spotlight, and we're talking to Sharon Corston today from the Lakehead Social Planning Council, who does all of the income tax for the Lakehead Social Planning Council, LSPC. I think that's what a lot of people know it by, Sharon.
Right. Or 2-in-1 as a lot of
That's right. That's right.
a lot
I
of
never
people
thought
call it,
about
but
that.
2-in-1.
That's right. We should do that.
And I actually don't do all the income tax. I
Okay.
coordinate the volunteers.
coordinate it.
I coordinate the volunteers to do their taxes.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute. You do. I never even thought about, but I recognize that you do have volunteers that come
Yes,
in
we
and
do.
actually
No,
do.
they actually don't. They're all working from home now.
They're all working from home. My God, it's so different nowadays.
It is.
I remember years ago, you used to have them all lined up in a
we
in a
did,
row.
and we had a rotation. They came in every day at
Yeah.
the office, and
Now it's all done at home.
they're all done at home.
Well, we have changed in society.
Well, we had to change with COVID.
That's
right?
correct, of course, of course. So now, all right. One of the things I want to really talk about is the fact that, assuming that you're going to do your income tax, you have to do it. So, because you can't get your credits and all the rest of it. So let's talk about some of those credits. I've got to pull them out because I did this homework before I came to do the show with you today. And certainly, I'm amazed at some of the credits that there is available.
That's true.
Can you just talk about some of them, how you get them and what happens?
Well, most of them you get just by doing your taxes.
Okay.
Okay, so basic ones, you'll get if you have rent, property taxes, or if you live on a reserve and you pay heating costs, or if you're a student who lives in residence.
Right.
You claim those amounts as your Ontario Trillium benefit, and you get an amount monthly for your benefits. And basically that contributes a part of it is called the Ontario Sales Tax Credit, because it's a 3-part benefit. And that, even if you don't pay any rent or any of those other things, then you automatically get that Ontario Sales Tax Credit once in July.
Right.
Then you have the Northern Ontario Energy Credit, which is part of that, and that's for living in Northern Ontario. And then the last one is the Ontario Energy Credit, and that's for if you've had paid rent, property tax, and all that stuff. So you actually get a 3-part benefit, which gives you a monthly amount starting in July.
Is that a lot of money?
For some people, it can be. It could be 180, depending on your family.
Oh, okay.
So
It can go up.
and depending on how many people in your family.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so that's one benefit.
That's one. GST is the next one.
Right.
And that comes quarterly. And basically, that's again doing your taxes.
Important to do.
Important.
Yes, it is.
Especially this year, they're really going to hold people to this deadline. And they have been, if you file them by the middle of May, sometimes it'll be a little late,
Right.
but you'll get it.
Right.
But now they're not doing any.
No, okay.
It's it.
So
This is it.
yeah, and that's okay. April the 30th, we know that. But so what are the other benefits?
And then the next one is your climate action incentive
Correct.
payment.
Okay.
So that one in 18, 19, and 20 was actually a refund. And last year they turned it into a benefit. They gave you a double payment in July, and then they gave you a single payment in October and January. This year, if you get your taxes done immediately, you will get your climate action incentive payment in April.
Oh, all right.
And it'll go April, July, October, and January.
All right.
So they're kind of hoping people will get those taxes done right away. Okay, so that's the first 3.
All right.
If you're a senior and you have paid property taxes, you are entitled to an Ontario Seniors Homeowner Property Tax Grant. It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
And you can get up to $500, a one-time payment, about a month after you filed your taxes for the senior. So that's 4 already.
Wow. Okay.
Now, if you're a senior
Yeah.
and on old age security, if you don't file your taxes, you don't get your guaranteed income supplement, which is basically a little additional money because you're a low income person. So that's a bump up. So you want to get that amount.
Of course.
Yeah, so that's 5 already.
Right.
And then there is now the dental payments
Yes.
for the families with children. Now that's going to be based on income. And if you're under $20,000, then they will actually automatically give you that amount when you do your taxes this year. They'll automatically okay this amount.
Right.
And the same thing with the housing bump up, because you have to pay 30% of your income in order to qualify. And so that would also be calculated this year, doing your taxes. So within a few months of doing your taxes, you could get all these little benefits starting.
Really, over a period of time, and that could, if say you were getting the max out, what would that? Have you any idea what that would be? Like,
Ooh,
it could be significant.
it's significant. Yes, it is.
All right. So,
Now, climate action is one that is based on income, and actually that will be a little higher. Ontario Trillium Benefit and GST will be a little less depending as your income goes up.
Right.
So some of them go down as your income gets higher, but some of them go up as your income gets a little higher too.
but that's something that's automatic, meaning that you don't have to be thinking about when you're going in to get, like if I'm going in to get my income tax done, papers done. I don't really know all of these things, and so, but it becomes automatic once you've submitted.
It basically, based on your income, it's
Right.
all calculated for you.
Then do you get after the fact, do you get a notice that this is what you're going to get so that
Yes.
you have an idea of what it's coming through to you?
That's the one thing. It's actually a month later.
Okay.
That's a little bit long period.
Yeah.
A lot of people would like to get it a little sooner. And unless you have an online account with CRA, then you can actually get it by email very much quicker.
All right.
And then the notices come out. For every one of the benefits, you'll get a notice. And usually they're pink. They're pink paper.
Okay.
Yep, they're special colors.
That's it. All right. So we get a piece of pink paper. But so that identifies from Revenue Canada? You
No,
get that?
it's actually, well, yes, it is from
Okay,
Revenue
right.
Canada. And basically, just for the Ontario Trillium benefit, you'll get, this is what you're entitled to.
Yeah.
GST, this is what you're entitled to. Climate action, this is what you're entitled to. So for every one of those benefits, they will send you something to say what you're going to qualify
Right.
for.
One of the things I find that frustrates me anyway is you get taxed on some of this. They give it to you and then the government gives it to you and then they tax you on. Does they tax you on all of these grants?
No, they don't.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay.
what they did, sadly enough, they gave these seniors $500 a year ago and then taxed them on it.
Yes.
It wasn't a gift after all.
No, it isn't.
They should have actually taken that tax money right off the top of it.
Right.
Because it did put seniors, low-income seniors last year into a tax-paying problem.
Oh,
Yes.
into a wrong category because then
Yes.
they're going to have to deal with that. That's
Yes,
not
which is not fair.
No,
was
it
not-
isn't
it
fair.
It was absolutely not fair.
right. Sharon, we're going to conclude our session for right this minute, but we will be back, Sharon Corston, to talk a little bit more there about the income tax and how important it is to file before the end of April, and something that you need to be looking at to making sure that you get these credits and grants that the government provides to us that we pay for originally, but at least you're getting some of that back. So Sharon Corston, my guest. Well, welcome back to Age Friendly here on Shaw Spotlight. And one of the things that we're talking about is, of course, income tax. April the 30th. Sharon Corston is my guest. And Sharon, I'm saying April the 30th because I want people to remember that that's a big date here.
It is a big date.
Yes.
Huge.
Huge. And this year, more important than ever, you were telling me.
It is. The CRA is going to stand by and say no more deadline after that. We're just going to go, you have to have your taxes done by the 30th.
Well, you know
Or
what?
you're not going to get your benefits in July.
Yeah, well, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, otherwise, we all procrastinate. And what is that? I mean, you have to have a deadline somewhere.
Now, I should clarify that. If you
Okay.
do your taxes late, you will eventually get your benefits.
Right.
They are going to be delayed.
And then I always look at that's too bad, so sad, but get on time, and then you wouldn't have
Well,
to have
then
this program
That's right,
problem.
because everybody counts on those little bits of money
That's
coming
right.
through every month.
Yes, of course.
So if you want to keep your money coming through steadily, then you want to make sure you got your taxes done.
So that's the message that we're going to get through today is April the 30th. One of the things, though, is that as an older adult, many older adults have medical expenses, whether it doesn't matter what it is. What do we get a credit for that?
You get money off it's basically a calculation off your taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, so for under 70, it's usually about 3% of your income that you can claim.
All right.
And then you'll get something back on your taxes. Over 70, the new this year, if you're over 70, you're supposed to be able to get 25% back.
All right.
So that's just a calculation, but you have to have all your medical in there. So I've been encouraging always people to break it down.
Yes.
Break it down. If it's prescriptions, go get a printout from the pharmacy because it says what the government paid and what you paid, and that's an important, you want to put that in.
Right.
You get from your chiropractor, from your foot care, from your whatever VON, lab work, everything.
And you've got to, but you have to have the backup.
You should have backup anyway, because
Right.
if you get audited, then they will ask.
I'm going to share that with the community, that I was audited because one year I had significant medical situation,
too.
and you did too.
Yeah.
And they did contact me and say, Rebecca, well, they didn't say Rebecca, but a point thereof of saying, you know what, we need proof that you have, because it was very excessive. I had all the things, and then they did not approve some of them, which was fine. It was I accepted that. But you really need to make sure that you've got your backup
You
material.
certainly do, yes.
In everything, not just medical.
That's right, even your rent, your property taxes, anything,
Yeah.
on all your slips. Mind you, Revenue Canada should have a copy of all your slips. So unless there's something that we recorded that was on your taxes that they don't have, then they'll check to see where that came
Right.
from. Where did you get those numbers from?
And one of the things that when you send it in, I don't have to sign it either, Sharon, you were telling me.
Nope, it gets automatically e-filed.
And then there's, because at one time you had to sign it. I remember that
did.
many years ago, I had to sign everything.
Now, accountants' offices will still have you come in and sign, but technically when it's e-filed and we've gotten permission virtually on the phone,
Right,
that's our virtual signature.
right.
Yeah.
And then you get the forms back and saying how much of credits you'll get or grants or whatever we want to call them. And at that point in time, it's really important and it could be a little bit different from what you send it in as. Whoever, I guess it's in Ottawa or wherever they happen to be, they make some changes in what you actually will receive from a credit.
They do. There's sometimes, depending on, like, if they feel that you've made an error.
Yeah.
then they will definitely readjust. But you can question that. You can say, why did you change that?
Right.
Yeah, and they've got contact numbers on all your notices of assessment, or go back to who did your taxes and say, why did I get this?
Right.
Especially, why did I get this?
Right. And
I want to know.
well, and of course, and so you should know, and it's really important that you make sure that you are able to obtain the best that you can. For some people, this is significant, though.
It is, and again, I'm sorry, but last year, CRA specifically was very bad. A lot of the T4s and documents weren't online. So we didn't know that. We usually ask people what kind of documents you have, but most of them were there, but
Right.
not all of them. So then they got dinged for some extra documents because they then finally came in. Actually, I had a case in point last week. Woman had told us she had a T4. She only told us about one, whereas she actually had two.
Okay.
Do you know when that was posted to CRA? It was the 21st of November.
Oh my goodness.
And the 23rd of January, she got her bill.
So you've got to bring all of that with you. Important to keep it throughout the year.
It
And
is.
even if you put it in an envelope or something, you really have it all together so that when I'm talking to you on the phone, I can identify what that is, because you're going to ask me all the questions.
That's right. You should always keep all your documents.
Yeah.
6 years plus current, so 7 years.
Because you never know if you're going to be audited.
That's right. Usually they audit within 2,
Right.
but you shouldn't get caught.
No. So that's a good point that we need to make for people, because I'm sure that a lot of people say they've done their income tax, we just throw everything away, but you shouldn't be doing that.
You shouldn't do that, because if you ever had to back up, if they decide, if you're a renter, for instance, if you don't keep your rent receipts, a lot of the landlords do not like to give you a second rent receipt, or if maybe they change companies,
Right.
and they don't have that record, because let's face it, a lot of them are property management companies nowadays, and they buy and sell each other all the time, right? So you can't get a rent receipt. So that means your Ontario Trillium benefit is going to be affected. So if they say now they're disallowing you,
Right.
they're going to want that money back.
My golly, you've got to really be careful with all of this.
You do. You
Well,
do.
it's important. So again, I'm going to say to everybody, April the 30th, Sharon, and
Thank you.
know it's really important to get this done. Lakehead Social Planning Council will help you, and I don't want to eliminate other organizations in the community
No.
that do this, but it's really important that you make sure that you get it done.
And right, by calling 211, you can find out where to get your taxes
And that's a
done.
good point. I appreciate that, because older adults really need to make sure that they work on this and make sure that their income tax is done April the 30th. But one of the other things I like to mention to people today is the fact that on our age-friendly website, if you want to go on the age-friendly website, is to go there and find out there's a little line about the Shaw television program which we are hosting today, and from that you can go in and talk about and answer a few questions about the program and maybe some of the things that you would like to see on our program. So please take that opportunity to do that. So Sharon, I just want to say thank you to you. Thank you very much. This has been a great information opportunity for the community, and I'm hoping that people will have their taxes done by April the 3rd. We've mentioned that so many times today,
Well, it's
but
gotta
it's
be out
really
there.
important.
It's really out there this
important.
year.
All right. Well, we'll close with our program, and of course we'll be going over now. We'll turn our program over to Linda DePiro for the one moment of senior exercise moment. And so if you haven't had a chance to join Linda in the past, make sure you do today, because she always keeps us exercising. It's something you should be doing all the time, Sharon. We all need to have exercise.
We need to keep moving.
And we sure do.
Yes.
So enjoy Linda DePiro with her one exercise moment. There we go.
Hi, I'm Linda DePiro, dressed in a little different attire. It's March, and it's St. Patrick's Day. So I'm gonna do a little dance called the St. Patrick's Day treble set dance. So here we go. we go. Have yourself a great St. Patrick's Day. Thanks. See you next time. Bye-bye.